A Maryland mayor says he's going to use his city's own tax dollars to pay for migrants' legal fees.
I will be asking the City Council to support a Legal Advocacy Fund in the upcoming fiscal year's budget, ensuring they have the legal support they need to stand strong and remain in this community they have chosen to call home.
Democrats are giving your money to lawyers to represent foreigners. They let people break into the country. Trump wants to give them the boot. They want to give him a lawyer.
And now the mayor of Frederick, Michael O'Connor, wants to create what he calls a Legal Advocacy Fund. It means he wants to pay the legal expenses for people living in Frederick illegally.
All right, guys, what's happening out there? Levi Trumbull reporting from my neck of the woods, that being the city of Frederick, Maryland. Guys, we have a lot of controversy to unpack as it relates to the mayor of Frederick City, Maryland, and his recent immigration proposals that have not only caught the heat from some residents and some elected officials, but have really been picked up by many national news outlets, you know, Fox News and the rest of them. Crazy situation. A lot of attention coming right here to the city of clustered spires, and we need to talk about it, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So, you know, regardless of anything else, the mayor, he's a very nice man, you know, pretty good guy, been relatively not very partisan throughout his tenure as mayor, but let's talk about what's going on here. So, as you may or may not be familiar with, after Trump won re-election, the City of Frederick Mayor Michael O'Connor came out and gave a press statement, and in that press briefing, he told the public that he would not cooperate with federal law enforcement agencies, whether they be ICE or whomever else, if they were coming in to deport illegal immigrants from the community. Notably, Frederick City is one of the few places in the country that actually allows non-residents, you know, illegal immigrants to vote in the election. That was something that was adopted recently. There was some pushback, but, you know, there wasn't quite enough signatures on a ballot to try to have that issue sent to the voters, so that didn't get very far. Obviously, with it being Frederick City, I want to point out this is a blue, very blue, diamond blue city in a blue state, and I want to notate that as well. But one of the things that has really been talked about, especially on, you know, national news, is this idea of, or proposal, I should say, of legal advocacy, setting up legal funds using Frederick citizen taxpayer dollars to essentially give lawyers, give legal assistance to people who are facing deportation proceedings or who come into complications with ICE or federal law enforcement. Essentially, Frederick taxpayers will assist in legal aid to prevent any negative situations like that from happening. So obviously we have had people come out like Sheriff Jenkins, the conservative elected sheriff of Frederick County, come out and say that this is not going to happen. He is going to work with Tom Homan, who will be incoming with the Trump administration to oversee that anybody who has any deportation warrants to see, specifically in Frederick County, city is in the county, to see that that happens and that that is a process that will not be obstructed by the mayor or anybody else. Also, you will recall one of the statements in Mayor O'Connor's statement to the press was that he said the city police department would not be cooperating with federal law enforcement officials. Now, rumor has it, my sources tell me that's a little bit different. The police chief is not quite on board with overstepping his boundaries quite that much. We will reach out to see what information we can find, but we know that the police chief, Lando, and Mayor O'Connor have a very functioning relationship, so it's unlikely that they would come out and say or do anything that would sort of put the mayor in a negative light or sort of overshadow what he said or come back and sort of reverse course on that statement. And before we play some of the highlights from Mayor O'Connor's press briefing last month, as well as some news clips that have been featured recently, before we do that, I just want to notate, I want to close out by saying that obviously, while there is some opposition to this, while this may seem like a very radical idea to some people, in the community and maybe outside of the community, I want to notate that there are going to be some people in this community who do support this. There's no question about that. And you have to really ask yourself at the end of the day, is Mayor O'Connor in tune with his city? perhaps more than people who are outside this jurisdiction would understand. And that's very possible. You know, when you're in government, an elected official should do what his residents elected him to do. And if this is what the city of Frederick residents want to see happen, this is where they want to see efforts spent, then that's what it is. And I don't think anybody who is outside can tell people on the inside, you know, where perhaps their tax dollars can go. I want to also close out by saying that this proposal, that's all this is right now. This hasn't passed. This is just something that will come before the city council at some point in time. So with that, guys, check out these news clips and we will catch you guys very soon.
In many regards, this election cycle did not go as I had hoped. Like many of you, I understand the uncertainty that a Trump presidency brings. We had the experience of his first term as prologue. But will this be a continuation or something different? No one knows. While we cannot predict every policy or action this administration may take, we have seen enough to know our path forward here in Frederick is clear. First and foremost, I want to make clear to our immigrant community that we will use any and all avenues to ensure you know you are safe in Frederick. And our community will not be fractured by fear. As many residents know, our city council recently made a decision to provide voting rights to any resident that calls Frederick home, regardless of citizenship status. We refuse to aid and abet outside agencies attempting to detain, deport, or remove any residents from our community. To reinforce this commitment, I will be asking the City Council to support a Legal Advocacy Fund in the upcoming fiscal year's budget. This fund will provide resources to community partners for Frederick residents who may be harmed by policies from the new administration, ensuring they have the legal support they need to stand strong and remain in this community they have chosen to call home.
Well, the Fox News at Common Sense Department is a little baffled by the reasoning from the mayor of Frederick, Maryland, population 78,000. If you don't know, Frederick is about 50 miles or so outside of Washington, D.C., and is among the few cities in America that allows non-Americans to vote in city elections. And now the mayor of Frederick, Michael O'Connor, wants to create what he calls a Legal Advocacy Fund. It means he wants to pay the legal expenses for people living in Frederick illegally. Essentially, he is pushing for an illegals legal aid, funded, of course, by taxpayer money, or at least what used to be taxpayer money before the government took ownership. The mayor says the money will assist, quote, residents who may be harmed by policies from the new administration. Common sense thinks he means the people being deported by Donald Trump because they broke laws. But many are wondering why the mayor doesn't set up a legal fund for those victimized by illegal immigrants. Sadly, the city of Frederick is much like Denver, much like most of Blue America, where helping your own residents really not part of the plan. It's interesting that Frederick is officially known as the city of clustered spires. Common sense thinks it won't be long before Frederick is known as the city of cluster funds. The migrant crisis continues to impact everyday Americans, and now yet another blue state mayor, as we told you, ticking off the taxpayers in his city over a plan to fund legal support for immigrants. Let's bring in Frederick County, Maryland Sheriff Chuck Jenkins. Sheriff, it's great to have you on the show. I want to just play a very quick soundbite from your mayor to kind of give a gist of what he's trying to say. Watch.
We refuse to aid and abet outside agencies attempting to detain, deport, or remove any residents from our community.
I mean, what do you think of the mayor setting up a legal fund for illegal immigrants?
What he's saying directly is we are setting up a sanctuary city. You know, he's angered taxpayers by his statement. He's on the wrong side of this issue. He certainly doesn't have the right to use taxpayer money. He's naive. He's foolish. And again, his view is he wants Frederick to be a sanctuary city, and it's not going to be. It's not going to happen here.
You know, it's interesting, Sheriff, because kind of delving back into what was happening to you in that very same area, federal prosecutors accused you of helping a local gun shop obtain machine guns, right? We know the charges have now been dismissed, but you call this a legal and political assassination attempt. What do you mean by that, Sheriff?
And I was charged. I was indicted with absolutely no evidence. I lived through hell for 587 days after being indicted in April of 2023 until recently on November 12th without a shred of evidence, without any evidence whatsoever. And I felt that I was a political target because of what I stand for here in Frederick County. And it goes to a larger, broader issue about the weaponization of the Department of Justice. I feel like I was a target. So therefore, much like an assassination.
Yeah, and when you say, Sheriff, what you stand for, what would the people of Frederick believe that you stand for?
They know that I stand for law and order, the rule of law. For 16 years, I've worked with ICE in a very successful 287G program that's maintained safety in Frederick County. It's a safe community. We've probably got the lowest crime rate in the region, in large part due to the 287G and our work with ICE. And my goal is to continue that. I've got a good relationship with Mr. Homan for years. He means business. President Trump means business. I will support that 1,000%.
And it's interesting because I wanted to get your take on this because the illegal immigrant who allegedly killed 16-year-old Lisbeth Medina wants an insanity evaluation. Her mother says he knew exactly what he was doing. I want to play a little sound of Jacqueline Medina because I think it's well worth it. Watch this.
I stand with all the mothers and fathers who are going through this. Laken Riley's family, Jocelyn Nungare's family, all of them. We are all united by the same tragedies. But that could have been prevented. Biden and the Harris administration failed us completely. And now I'm losing hope.
Yeah, it's amazing, Sheriff. And I ask you that because it's one of those things where common sense asks the same question. Why doesn't your mayor start a fund for the victims of some of these illegal immigrants?
You would have to ask the mayor that, but I tell you, I would like to put the mayor in a room with any parent of any victim anywhere in the USA and have him explain to that family why he feels the way he feels, what justifies his view on this, and why he wants to protect people that are in this country illegally. We are looking at the most violent criminals and gang members and cartel members on the face of the planet coming into our country. We've got to get serious about cleaning up this problem. When's it going to be time to protect Americans?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Sheriff Chuck Jenkins, thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, coming up, what Charlemagne...